Definitely a bunch of different learnings. I think one of the learnings that comes to mind is the fact that Android did a good job at having a community that was very excited about it, passionate about Android early on. And that was more the developer community, the more geeky community, if you may, which absolutely despised iOS because it's such a closed ecosystem. It's like really hard to develop on it, really hard to like work with it, versus Android took a very different approach, which means like folks that are tinkerers like absolutely love the platform. That's where it started, which in some ways that was the initial branding of Android, was like, oh, this is this open source, geeky operating system, not going to, hit mainstream. But of course we took that and eventually kind of broadened the target market, right? Found concentric circles of markets that were adjacent to where we started. But I think it's really important to focus on a small but passionate community that loves your product. Don't try to boil the ocean. Don't try to be everything to everybody. It's just really, really hard out of the gate. Start small and then eventually grow from there and learn from the first community that's willing to give you feedback, willing to iterate with you, and then eventually you kind of scale from there. I think that's one. I think second is the power of go-to-market and adoption. Building a great product is only half the story. You've got to get it in the hands of users, right? And that's, you can't just build a great product, throw it over the fence, and hope they come. Sometimes it works, most times it doesn't. You have to be just as thoughtful and strategic about adoption. And in Android's case, that was about partnerships, right? We knew that we didn't want to build the hardware ourselves. Instead, we wanted to partner with the hardware manufacturers like LG, Samsung, HTC, and so on and so forth, and empower them to take Android and build great experiences for their customers. And that worked really well. And of course, we aligned our incentives with theirs because they didn't necessarily want to build a smartphone operating system because it's very expensive to build an operating system, but also the developer community is very hard to like attract, right? And developers didn't want to build for Samsung, HTC, LG, and then iOS. That would just be way too much fragmentation. So we saw there's an opportunity to say, okay, what if we build a developer ecosystem, the Google Play Store, right, and standardize the APIs and the SDK, and then but leave enough for our partners to customize. So Samsung phone, Android phone doesn't look like the HTC phone or the LG phone because they can customize the UI. So it's this perfect balance of like, you get a bunch off the shelf, but then you can customize it enough to make it yours. And that worked really well, and of course helped us get a lot of adoption. And then I think look, Android, it feels like it was an overnight success story. And look, a bunch of years of work had been put in, frankly, in Android even before I joined. And then of course, when I joined in 2009, that's like 12 years ago. So a lot has gone into it. It takes a lot of time. So you've got to be persistent. You've got to there were ups and downs along the way. It wasn't always up and to the right. It never is. But if you're willing to put in the time, you're diligent, you have the, you're thinking about from the first principles of perspective, eventually it will work out.